Good evening, everybody. It is Steve Lookner with Agenda Free TV. We are here live. You can see a live shot right there of Haifa, Israel via AFP. So we are going to bring you some live coverage. Israel, and I would say the world, is waiting for the anticipated Iranian attack on Israel that is expected in response to Israel's killing the political leader of Hamas in Tehran, Iran, early morning Wednesday. So I have no idea when this response is going to be, but we're going to bring you an update as to the latest on the situation. And we're going to be taking some of your comments and questions as well. So I appreciate you tuning in. And we will be talking about it, and I'll be keeping an eye on what's going on and let you know if there's any developments. But that is Haifa, Israel. It is 1:45 a.m. there. Oops. Thank you to our moderators who are with us right now. We have moderating now RJ. Thank you, RJ, for moderating. I appreciate that. Linda, Belk, and Larry are over there on X. Thanks, Lucky Splinters, for the gift membership, by the way. I appreciate that. Also, we have moderating on Twitch. We have Big Ball of Yarn, David Green, Idaho Star, McBritches, and Surly Dev. Thanks to Shadow Woman 7 for subscribing on Twitch. And we have, one moment please. Ronald Egnor, K. Larry Body, Christina Neal, all moderating on Facebook, and I really appreciate that. Hey, I wanted to start by talking about a new announcement from the U.S. Department of Defense sending some additional resources to help protect Israel. There, check this out. Deputy Press Secretary Sabrina Singh statement on forced posture in the Middle East. This just came out recently from the U.S. Department of Defense. The Department of Defense continues to take steps to mitigate the possibility of regional escalation by Iran or Iran's partners and proxies. Mitigate means lessen. Since the horrific Hamas attack on Israel on October 7th, the Secretary of Defense has reiterated that the U.S. will protect our personnel and interests in the region, including our ironclad commitment to the defense of Israel. To that end, Secretary Austin, To that end, Secretary Austin has ordered adjustments to U.S. military posture designed to improve U.S. force protection, to increase support for the defense of Israel, and to ensure the United States is prepared to respond to various contingencies. To maintain a carrier strike group presence in the Middle East, the Secretary of Defense has ordered the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group to replace the USS Theodore Roosevelt Carrier Strike Group, currently on deployment in the Central Command Area of Responsibility. Additionally, Secretary Austin has ordered additional ballistic missile defense-capable cruisers and destroyers to the U.S. Eastern Command and U.S. Central Command regions. The department is also taking steps to increase our readiness to deploy additional land-based ballistic missile defense. The Secretary has also ordered the deployment of an additional fighter squadron to the Middle East, reinforcing our defensive air support capability. These posture adjustments add to the broad range of capabilities the U.S. military maintains in the region, including the USS Wasp Amphibious Ready Group Marine Expeditionary Unit, ARGMEU, operating in the Eastern Mediterranean. As we have demonstrated since October and again in April, the United States global defense is dynamic, and the Department of Defense retains the capability to deploy on short notice to meet evolving national security threats. The United States also remains intently focused on de-escalating tensions in the region and pushing for a ceasefire as part of a hostage deal to bring the hostages home and end the war in Gaza. So they are switching out a new carrier group for the one that was already there and sending more ships capable of ballistic missile defense and increasing readiness to deploy land-based ballistic missile defense, worried about missiles being shot at Israel, and sending a fighter squadron, additional one, for defense air support, maybe to shoot down drones. I'm not sure. So more assets being sent to the Middle East. That was just posted, I want to say, in the last hour or so. Hey, a quick thanks up north from Canada. That's so nice of you. Thanks for your generous support of the channel up north in Canada. And thank you, Wrigley Rob, who's still complaining about something from a week ago, if not more. And thank you to Dolores Wilson for the gift memberships. Thanks so much, Dolores. And Kerry Poteet, thank you for the gift memberships. All right, so I want to give you that update on the defense situation. Really quick, I posted about it on my X account, but there was a earthquake near the Philippines, and it was a 6.8, and there's no tsunami threat. 6.8 earthquake near the Philippines, no tsunami threat, according to Pacific Tsunami Warning Center. So, in case anyone was wondering about that. Okay, hang on. So we want to bring you some updates as to what is going on. Again, I don't know when this response is going to be. A response from Hezbollah, an Iran-supported militant group / political party in Lebanon, is also expected because Israel earlier this week killed a top commander in Hezbollah in a suburb of Beirut. So will Hezbollah and Iran respond at the same time or at different times? That I do not know. When will it happen? I do not know. We're waiting and seeing when it happens. So I'm just checking for updates here as well. The Jerusalem Post reports that Wizz Air has canceled all flights to and from Israel due to security fears. Wizz Air, Hungarian low-cost airline. I wonder if I can find their announcement. Uh-oh. Hang on a moment. Hang on a moment. Give me one sec here. I just have to shut something off here. Where is the... Okay. Hey, look, I got it. I found it. Wizz Air. It's Wizz Air. They are a Hungarian airline. Due to the escalating situation in the region, Wizz Air will be temporarily suspending flights to and from Israel and Jordan until August 4th inclusive. Wizz Air regrets the inconvenience caused to the passengers due to the current situation and is offering affected customers a 120% refund in Wizz credits, a full refund in the original form of payment or free rebooking options. I believe a number of airlines have canceled or reduced flights to the region. I might have an article on that. Hold on. Let's see. Here, this is from Reuters, from today. Airlines avoid some Mideast airspace, cancel Israel flights as tensions mount. We'll get an update on this. Quick thanks to iCup and to Kyle Style and Bama Fan for the gift memberships and Dolores Wilson for the gift memberships. Again, this is from Reuters. Reuters says, airlines are let me make this a little bigger for you. Airlines are avoiding Iranian and Lebanese airspace and canceling flights to Israel and Lebanon as concerns grow over a possible conflict in the region after the killing of senior members of militant groups Hamas and Hezbollah this week. Singapore Airlines stopped flying through Iranian airspace from early Friday morning and is using alternative routes, saying safety is its top priority, it told Reuters. Taiwan's EVA Air and China Airlines also appeared to be avoiding Iranian airspace for flights to Amsterdam on Friday, which previously had flown over Iran, Flight Radar 24 data showed. Those airlines did not immediately respond to a request for a comment. In a bulletin, OPS Group, a membership-based organization that shares flight risk information, advised traffic between Asia and Europe to avoid Iranian and Iraqi airspace, a day after sources told Reuters that top Iranian officials would meet the representatives of Iran's regional airlines from Lebanon, Iraq, and Yemen to discuss potential retaliation against Israel. Now, many airlines already, including U.S. and European airlines, already avoid flying over Iran, especially since the reciprocal missile and drone attacks in April between Iran and Israel. Okay. However, a significant number of airlines on Friday were still flying over Iran, including UAE carriers Etihad, Emirates, and Fly Dubai, as well as Qatar Airlines and Turkish Airlines. Over the past 2 days, Air India, Germany's Lufthansa Group, U.S. carriers United and Delta Air, and Italy's ITA Airways said they have suspended flights to Tel Aviv. Airlines this week have also been canceling and delaying flights to the Lebanese capital Beirut after a strike in the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights on Saturday. Israel has blamed the attack on Lebanon-based armed group Hezbollah, which denied involvement. Canada on Thursday issued a notice to Canadian aircraft to avoid Lebanese airspace for 1 month due to the risk to aviation from military activity. Britain has, for the past month, advised pilots of potential risk from anti-aircraft weaponry and military activity in Lebanon's airspace. And last paragraph here of this article, if I can just show you. It says, Should an all-out war break out in the Middle East, ops groups said civil aviation will likely face the risk of drones and missiles crossing airways, as well as the increased risk of GPS spoofing, a growing phenomena around Lebanon and Israel, where militaries and other actors broadcast signals that trick a plane's GPS system into thinking it is somewhere it is not. Anyway, that's a little air traffic update, flight and air traffic update, flights and airlines update from Reuters. And we just saw another one. Wizz Air, Hungarian airline, announced it was temporarily suspending flights to and from Israel and Jordan. Add that to the list. Thanks, Pixel Panda. I appreciate that. Callum Shaw says, GPS jamming happening already. Plenty of errors on Flight Radar 24 around Israel and Lebanon. By the way, I don't know, I don't know enough about Flight Radar to know when things are really, I can't usually look at it and say, wow, things look so different, because I don't know how they normally look. But I follow a bunch of accounts that know a lot about the flight radar stuff. So if stuff is really, if there's some really big thing going on with the flight radar, these accounts will certainly post something about it. I can show you what the airspace looks like, but I don't know what it normally looks like there. So I can't tell you how different it is. I think Aurora Intel had posted something saying normally there's not that much traffic over here anyway. These certain areas. There's Iran right there. Now there certainly is some air traffic over Iran. Maybe I can find, this is Flight Radar 24 by the way. Maybe I can find that Aurora Intel post. Samuel says it's thinning. Well, it would make sense it's thinning given the article we just read. Can I find that post here? Let's see. I can't find it. Oh, here it is right here. So this was Aurora Intel posted. Someone had taken a screenshot of the area. Oh, and they had pointed out that there was a lack of flight traffic over Syria, in Iraq, and Jordan, roughly speaking. And Aurora Intel said, just a normal day over the Middle East. Let's not sensationalize things, please. So you need to know how things normally look to be able to look at the radar and say, wow, that's something different. Arthur thinks the attack will not happen today or tonight. Sharon says, might not even attack for all we know. Well, the supreme leader of Iran is put it on his social media that they were going to attack. So there's going to be some kind of attack. They wouldn't announce there's going to be something and just not do anything. Island Pat thinks it is happening tonight. Maybe we'll do a poll. People like when they get to vote in the poll. Thanks to Clean937 Samuel, and Paula Faust, our member. I'm going to show you shortly some analysis from Institute for the Study of War. They have a new article about what the attack might look like, and I think that'll be interesting to look at. So we should check that out. Let me put a poll up. Oh, you know what? Why am I not showing this? This is what I should be showing. There. No, not that. This. There. That's what I want to show. It's Haifa, Israel, 2:04 a.m. Haifa, Israel. Haifa's in northern Israel. You know, Michael Horowitz said something interesting, who I follow. He said he thinks it won't be, he thinks they might have to wait a little while to do it, but he was saying, but maybe they would do it earlier, so before preparations get there. It was an interesting comment. I'm going to show you what Michael had to say. So Michael is an international security analyst. Do I have that right? Geopolitical analyst. I follow Michael. And so he said, one thing he said is, if Iran does strike this early, as opposed to around 2 weeks after the strike in Damascus in April. In April, when Iran struck Israel, it did it 12 days after Iran attacked. Sorry, when Iran launched the big attack with like over 150 drones on Israel and over 100 missiles on Israel in April. That was in response to Israel attacking an Iranian embassy building in Syria. But it came 12 days after the Israeli attack on the Iranian building. So Michael says, if Iran does strike this early, as opposed to around 2 weeks after the strike in Damascus in April, then it may be aiming to attack at a time when the U.S. and other partners haven't fully deployed to maximize impact. You know, we just saw this announcement in the Department of Defense saying they're sending more resources to the region, ships with anti-missile defense technology, and preparing more land-based missile defense. You know, so you never know. They could maybe think that doing something earlier will not let Israel and the Allies prepare as much. I don't know. He does say, though, my initial instinct is that Iran will wait and seek more coordination with its proxies. I still feel this is the case, and an early strike might be a less likely scenario, but it's a guessing game, obviously. You can follow Michael if you'd like, Michael H992. I like listening to his analysis, or reading his analysis. Oh, I was going to do a poll. Let me post the poll. Hey, thanks to Crift Cards and Movie Pulse, our new member. And thanks so much to Chris Canada. I'm glad you enjoyed the coverage last night of the prisoner swap return. And Cardinal Glick, 57. Are you surprised they're doing this during the Olympics? Who's doing it? Am I surprised at who's doing it? I don't think there's really any connection to the Olympics. Israel carried out 2 assassinations, and I think they weren't really concerned about whether it would be during the Olympics or not. It was much more like the other considerations were much more important about wanting to strike certain targets and wanting to retaliate for certain activities. So that would be their chief concern. And similarly with Iran, I can't imagine the Olympics is a significant concern for them. Their concern is wanting to figure out how they want to respond to Israel. But my guess is that they're not going to worry about the Olympics. I mean, they're not going to attack unless they're thinking about attacking France or something. I just think there's other factors that are so much more important. Just my opinion. Cardinal Glick, just my opinion. Thank you to DeShark for the gift memberships as well. Thanks, DeShark. That's nice of you. All right, we're doing a poll. Poll. When hold on a second. All right, YouTube people, get ready to vote. I am starting the YouTube poll right now, and I'm going to post it on Twitch as well. Okay, time for us to see what our YouTube voters are saying, as it's 2:10 a.m. Israel time. Okay, our YouTube voters, 43% say Iran will attack this weekend. 24% say tonight, 21% say after this weekend, and 13% say never. Thanks, Michael Regina, by the way, who says, do you think Iran can overwhelm the Iron Dome? So it's not, Israel doesn't have, Iron Dome is for like, for shorter range projectiles like rockets. But if you mean, can Israel overwhelm, can Iran overwhelm Israel's total defenses? I'm going to leave that. We're going to talk more about that when I show you the Institute for the Study of War stuff. So hold that thought. We'll talk more about the specifics of what the attack might look like shortly. Thank you, Michael. And thank you, Zach T, for becoming a new member. Oh, I wanted to show you how Twitch was voting. Let's see how Twitch is voting. How is Twitch voting? There. So Twitch says 25% tonight. Man, it is really close. That's pretty amazing how close that is. Oh, we might have lost that feed. I might have to get you a different feed. That's pretty close, guys. Wow. 25 on Twitch say tonight. 24 on YouTube say tonight. Yeah, I got to switch the video behind it. 40% say this weekend on Twitch. 43% say this weekend on YouTube. 20% after this weekend. 21% on Twitch after this weekend. Very, very similar. It's almost too similar seeming, isn't it? Maybe people are voting twice. One on each. All right. This weekend wins, but people have some different thoughts on the matter. All right, let me get another video for you. What do I have here? I do have a video from the Israel-Lebanon border, I think. Ah, I got it. Northern Israel. Let me get this. I'm fixing the clock. I'm fixing the clock. So bear with me. Let's see if this works. Let's see if this works. Let's see if this works. Now, why is this not acting properly? One moment, guys. I got it. There's that. So I'm going to put this on, take that off. All right, there is the Israel-Lebanon border. Now what I have to do is this. It's too big. There we go. Israel-Lebanon border. Israel time 2:15. That's better. We did it. And I got to do one more quick thing. Okay. We lost the Haifa feed. So we'll show you Israel-Lebanon border. OPR thinks theoretically Iran is attacking Israel now since many Israelis are altering their lives, fearing an imminent attack. I don't know how much people are changing their lives right now in Israel. I don't know. That I don't know. Oh, Faye Tux found something interesting in the Wall Street Journal. Faye Tux News. Hang on. Yeah, there's a new article in the Wall Street Journal, Israel and the U.S. prepare for severe Iranian retaliation. Well, I'll just give you a little summary of what they say. Give me 1 second here. But shout out to Faye Tux News. I appreciate Faye Tux News on X finding that there was this article put out. Where's Faye Tux? Yeah, shout out to, to Faye Tux News. Okay, so, so the Wall Street Journal has an article out, and it says, Tehran and its allies have told diplomats retaliation will be heavy and swift, but won't telegraph when or how. So I'll just give you, if you can go there for the full article. I'm just going to see what they have to say. Maybe take a couple points out of there. Some fear the attack could be bigger and more complex than Iran's assault in April. Remember that the April Iranian attack, according to Wikipedia, well, actually, yeah, according to Wikipedia, and they quote other sources. They're just they have plenty of footnotes in their article about the Iranian strikes against Israel. Wikipedia says Iran's attack sent around 170 drones, over 30 cruise missiles, and more than 120 ballistic missiles toward Israel and the Israel-occupied Golan Heights. So that was back on April 13th. I think the Institute for the Study of War is slightly different numbers, but basically we're talking about that level of attack. So some people think according to the Wall Street Journal, it could be bigger than April. Oh, it's also interesting. The Wall Street Journal says that that they claim that U.S. and Arab diplomats are not getting much information from Iran. They say they're getting an angry silence from Iran and its Lebanese ally Hezbollah. And the Wall Street Journal says the lack of information has pushed the region to one of its most dangerous moments since the war in Gaza began. Because you might misjudge what, Israel and might misjudge what Iran is doing. And then take action based on that misjudgment. It's one thing if Iran were to fire a lot of missiles, but tell Israel in advance that they're going to do it and when, then Israel might look at that a lot differently than just Iran doing it by surprise. So the Wall Street Journal thinks that Iran and Hezbollah, which is backed by Iran, will want to avoid all-out war and are trying to calibrate their response. And then the Wall Street Journal says some Arab officials told it that they believed the response will be stronger than April. And there's some concern that it might not be just Hezbollah and Iran, but it might involve like the Houthis and other Iranian proxies. Okay, let's see what else they say. I'm going to talk more about what the response might look like specifically. But anyways, I was just giving you a few tidbits from the Wall Street Journal reporting on this. Thank you, Shadow6530, by the way, and also Latu. Latu says, I think Iran will not wait for Iran attack. I think Israel will not wait for Iran attack. Israel will attack Iran's military first. Less damage in Israel this way. If Israel were to launch some kind of preemptive strike on Iranian military before Iran launched an attack, that would be seen as a major escalation. That would be seen as a major escalation by Iran. I'm not saying it won't happen, but I think it's unlikely because it would be seen as a major escalation. Hidden the Wires thinks Iran is trying to reestablish deterrence. Thanks so much to Sushi Jezebel for the gift memberships and Martin Gingrich. Martin thinks that Israel knew it was coming hours before. I don't know about the notification of Israel. I mean, Israel had a lot of notice in April because the drones and missiles were fired from Iran, and they took hours to get there. So they had hours to try to shoot them down. But, something we talked about last night is and something the Institute for the Study of War said, is if Hezbollah launches drones from literally right across the border from Israel, then Israel's not going to have hours to wait and hours of notice. I don't know, honestly, what kind of diplomatic heads up Israel got about the April attack. from Iran? Thank you, Baby Blue Sky. Baby Blue Sky says, how can they surprise attack when they announce they will attack? Yeah, so I've got this question a bunch, and the simple answer is that Israel knows they're going to attack. When Israel assassinated the political leader of Hamas, who was a guest of Iran, in the capital of Iran, they knew Iran was going to attack back. So it is in no way news to Israel when Iran says we're going to respond. It would be more important news to Israel if they said we're going to respond at exactly this time, but nobody from Iran is saying that. So it's just not informative for Israel for Iran to say we're going to launch a strike, because Israel knows it's coming anyway. Thank you to Baby Blue Sky. I appreciate that. And Latu as well. And Vanessa and Geraldine Friedrich. And RJ for the gift memberships, our moderator. Thanks, RJ. That's so nice of you. Thanks for moderating. Thanks to all of our moderators, by the way. We would not have chat rooms without our moderators. Sabrina is there, RJ, Linda Belk and Larry. Big Ball of Yarn, David Green, LB Prairie Dawn, Idaho Star. I Got That Fire, McBritches, Papa Bear, and Surly Dev. Christina Neal is moderating too. Margaret Riley, Kay Lowry Body, thank you. Ronald Egnor, thanks so much. I remember when Iran attacked Israel in April, maybe like an hour or so before, you started hearing a bunch of things that maybe an hour or two before, you started hearing things. I don't remember if it was like airspace closures and stuff, but you just started hearing a bunch of reports that, and you're like, yeah, okay, it's really coming. So not to say we have to hear that kind of stuff, but nothing I've heard so far tonight suggests it's happening tonight. Doesn't mean it's not happening tonight, but we haven't been hearing anything that would seem to telegraph it's coming up. What's this? Hold on. I vaguely remember, like, I think Biden was out of town and maybe he came back a day early that day or something. Oh, David Hawthorne sent me something. You know, I feel like they're not a really reliable source. Sky News Arabia. So Jerusalem Post posted an article saying that it was saying that according to Sky News Arabia, Western intelligence sources told them they had evidence Iran had plans to attack Israel on Tisha B'Av, which is August 12th. I don't know. I want to say, don't hold me to this, but I feel like there have been past cases when Sky News Arabia claimed stuff and it just turned out to be false. In my experience, if I remember right, I have not found them to be the most reliable source. So I'm certainly not going to read into that report that deeply. But maybe they'll be right. Again, from my experience, I feel like they haven't been the most reliable. But thanks for messaging me about it. Let's look at what the Institute for the Study of War has to say. Let's look at that. We're going to look at that in a second. That's interesting. Oops, let me check one more thing. We'll check that out in a second. You're looking at the western, it's the western side of Israel's border of Lebanon. Sorry, the western side of Israel's border with Lebanon. This is from Reuters. That's the footage you're looking at. The western side of Israel's border with Lebanon. Oh, I have an update here from AP. Let's look at the AP article for a second, as like a general overview of what's going on. Mourners bury Hamas chief Haniyeh in Qatar as more escalation looms over the Middle East. So remember that on Wednesday early morning, Israel, it is believed, assassinated the political leader of Hamas, Haniyeh, in Tehran, Iran. And they had a funeral for him on Thursday in Tehran, but then the body was flown back to where he was living, Qatar, and that's where he was buried, in Qatar. Today, I guess he was buried today in Qatar. Just in case you're confused about, like, why are they saying, why is this news story out today? Well, he was buried today in Qatar. But this talks about the situation some. So we'll talk about this, and then we'll talk about the Institute of Study of War. We'll talk about their analysis. Thanks, by the way, to Casino Chief and Sundial Rob and Paul L. The mods can post the merch links, Paul L. There's merch links if you're interested. Thanks for asking. Carrie N. for your support. Thank you, T-Sky. I think I just mentioned that, what you mentioned, T-Sky. Thank you. And also A.H. Thank you, A.H. It's been very busy, A.H., but everything is fine. Busy, busy. A lot of news. And thank you, Elizabeth Giles, for your support and your kind words. Thank you. And thanks to L. Gompers for subscribing on Twitch. And all right, so let's talk about, this is from Associated Press. Ooh, they have some pictures. So this here is from, this is today in Doha, Qatar. And that is Haniyeh's coffin being carried out after the funeral prayers there. That's after the coffin got returned from Iran. So that right there is the coffins of, it's a Hamas official, and he actually spoke at the funeral in, we saw him speaking at the funeral in Tehran when we covered it. That is Khalil al-Hayya in the blue suit there speaking. He is a senior Hamas official. So those are the coffins of Haniyeh and his bodyguard, who were killed in Tehran by Israel, believed to be Israel. Okay, that is, I'm not going to worry about that now. Then there's a picture from the funeral, which we were covering on Thursday, of Haniyeh. And that's the funeral in Tehran that they had. Okay, so just to get back to this, thousands of mourners converged around the, oops, let me just do this. What you should be seeing is, thousands of mourners converged around the flag-draped coffin of Hamas's slain political chief, Ismail Haniyeh, in the Emirate of Qatar on Friday as the fallout surged from his death in an alleged Israeli attack. The funeral ceremony in Doha, Qatar's capital, attended by members of Gaza's militant Hamas and Islamic Jihad groups, as well as Qatari and Iranian officials, was subdued. But across the Muslim world, from Jordan and Morocco to Yemen and Somalia, angry crowds waving Palestinian flags rushed out of mosques after midday Friday prayers, chanting for revenge. Let Friday be a day of rage to denounce the assassination, said Izzat al-Rishek, a senior Hamas official. Haniyeh had lived in Qatar for several years, along with other senior members of Hamas's political leadership. Following the back-to-back assassinations of Haniyeh in Tehran early Wednesday and top Hezbollah commander Fuad Shukr in Beirut the evening before, both carried out by Israel, it is believed. Israel admitted to the Hezbollah one. Following those back-to-back assassinations, international diplomats have scrambled to head off a full-fledged regional war. Iran and its proxies vowed to retaliate. Major airlines canceled flights to Tel Aviv, Israel, and Beirut, Lebanon. Cyprus said Friday it was preparing for possible mass evacuations of foreign citizens via the island nation in case of a wider war. France beefed up security for Jewish communities nationwide. Poland warned its citizens against traveling to the Middle East. Pakistan and Turkey lowered their flags to half-staffs, prompting Israel to summon Turkey's deputy ambassador for a stern reprimand. Turkey's foreign ministry spokesperson shot back that Israel, quote, cannot achieve peace by killing the negotiators, a reference to Haniyeh's role in ceasefire talks. While hundreds of Turks gathered at the historic Hagia Sophia, if I'm pronouncing that right, to pay tribute to the slain Hamas leader as his funeral service got underway in Doha. The senior Hamas official who spoke both at the funeral in Tehran and the funeral in Qatar, Khalil al-Hayya, said, "We are sure that his blood will bring out victory, dignity, and liberation." He is seen as a possible successor to Haniyeh. Israel has not confirmed or denied its role in the targeting of Haniyeh. Hamas said Haniyeh was killed in a strike on a guest house in Tehran where he was staying after the swearing-in ceremony of the new Iranian president. By the way, Axios and the New York Times both report, and I believe some other outlets are reporting this as well, but Axios and the New York Times, we talked about this last night, both report that Haniyeh was killed by a bomb that had been smuggled into his guest room sometime in the previous months. Khaled Kadumi, Hamas's representative in Iran, was staying on a lower floor of the guest house. Kadumi said he woke up shortly before 2 a.m. when his room was shaken and he saw a flash out the window. At first, Kadumi said he thought it was thunder and lightning or an earthquake. By the time he got out of his room, smoke was everywhere, and his colleagues told him Haniyeh was killed. Kadumi saw Haniyeh face down on the floor. He spotted the body of Haniyeh's bodyguard holding a bloody Quran. No one else was injured. There was so much dust and smoke in the room, Kadumi had to wear a mask. The roof and the walls overlooking the exterior were destroyed, he said. Kadumi said it looked like the room was hit by a missile. A photo he said was of the building after the attack appeared to show less structural damage than would typically be seen from a large missile. The damage appeared more consistent with a smaller explosive, potentially delivered by a drone or planted at the site. Kadumi said Haniyeh had stayed at the same guest house in May when he attended the funeral of Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi, who was killed in a helicopter crash. That's interesting. I had not heard that account before of somebody who was in the building at the time. Very interesting. Assuming it's accurate. Real quick, on Thursday, Israel announced it had killed the shadowy leader of Hamas's military wing, Mohammed Deif, a couple weeks ago in July. Fine. Across the region, So, and just summing up what's going on with Hezbollah, tensions also ran high on Israel's northern border days after Israel claimed responsibility for killing Shukr, a top Hezbollah commander. On Friday, Hezbollah claimed a series of rocket and artillery attacks on Israel, causing a fire but no casualties. Blah, 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 blah. The exchange was more of the same tit for tat that has flared along the Lebanese-Israeli border throughout the Israel-Hamas war. But Israelis and Lebanese braced for more after Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah on Thursday declared that the killing by Israel of the Hezbollah commander Shukr had pushed the conflict into a new phase. Across the region, vows by Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei that Israel would pay a price for killing Haniyeh on Iranian soil quickly led to calls for intense diplomacy to prevent further escalation. So what will happen? Expecting that you will have a Iranian response to Israel and a Hezbollah response to Israel for each of those assassinations, maybe both at the same time. Anyways, that was an AP story I was reading. You Associated Press made a deal with them recently, so I could pay them and we could use some of their content, which is quite helpful. So I appreciate that. I'm glad we're able to do that. Let me take a few more comments from you, and I think the next thing we'll do is look at the Institute for the Study of War, who has a new report out today talking about what the response by Iran might look like. Hey, a quick thank you to Stephen Roberts. Oh my gosh. That is so generous of you, Stephen Roberts. Thank you for your support for the channel. Stephen says, we will know what we know when we know it. You know, we could be waiting for days. Israel could be waiting for days, and then it suddenly happens. It took 12 days in April for Iran to attack Israel after Israel attacked an Iranian embassy complex building in Syria. 12 days it took in April. Thanks also to Night Owl. Night Owl seems to think Iran might attack Tel Aviv. Thank you to Mass Wolf for your support. Oh, and Stephen Roberts gave out 20 memberships too. Wow, that's really generous of you, Stephen. Thanks so much for supporting the channel, Stephen Roberts. Hey, thanks, Peanut Brain of the West. Yeah, you know, when Harris names her vice president, I'm sure we'll have some cover of that. Vice presidential pick, I'm sure we'll have some coverage of that. Thanks, Peanut Brain. And N. Gluck, thank you. And also Adopt a Pitbull, Save a Life, who thinks Iranian people are opposed to their government. I Love Reading thinks it will be a huge response by Iran. Eric says, I think it will happen when a person least expects it. You know, I think the assumption is it'll happen at night. Doesn't mean it has to happen at night. I mean, I think it would probably minimize collateral damage if it happened at night, but who knows? Nicholas Marsochi, our viewer, says, I have a feeling we will see a quicker response this time around than April. MEP Anon says, how on earth did Israel plant a bomb in the guest house, if indeed that's what they did? MT says, Iran can take all the time they need. SG Axis thinks it will happen at night. One Star Will says, Iran ain't going to do blank. Jupiter 5 says, waiting can be a weapon of a different type when used correctly. Oh, you know, who was it? Fez Watley mentioned a Telegraph article. I saw that the Telegraph was reporting something. Let me check this up. I don't know where they got this information from. Hang on. Yeah, so the Telegraph, which is a hold on. They are a UK paper. They're claiming that explosive devices were placed that they're claiming that Israeli intelligence hired Iranian agents to plant bombs in Haniyeh's residence. I don't know where they're getting that claim from. They claim that that's what they say. They say officials who have seen security footage of the building said they saw Iranian security agents on security footage. I don't know if this is true. No one else is reporting this that I've seen. I mean, like a bunch of outlets are reporting that it was a bomb, but this is the first I've seen of anybody saying they got Iranian people to do it. I mean, maybe they did. So the claim that the Telegraph is making is that the Mossad hired agents from the Iranian military unit responsible for the safety of high-ranking officials. So what can I say? I have no idea if that's true. But I have not seen that reported other places. The explosive got there somehow. Jorge Hem says that theory may be real. Oh, it might be real. It's just that when there's like one place reporting it and it's just like, I guess it could be real. I don't know, It's not like it's absolutely insane to think about, but I'm not going to just immediately assume that's what happened. Thank you, Joseph Khatib, our new member. And Night Owl, thanks for your support. And also Priority One. Thanks, Priority One, for your support. Thank you. Pucker War says Iran needs to fire its Secret Service. Sela says, could they go back that far viewing security video in that short a time? I don't know what the security video archives are like there. DK says, could be misinformation to spread mistrust in Iran. Anyways, you can find that story on the Telegraph UK. Oh, also, I should, the AP just posted this story too. I want to mention this again. Our viewer Arm and Hamsterdam writes in and says, if Iran were smart, they would carry out small-scale attacks on Israeli interests around the globe. They cannot compete with Israel in conventional warfare, but by terrorizing, that could put real pressure on Israel internationally. That's what, now, no idea if they might try such a thing, but that is what Arm and Hamsterdam believes. Thanks for writing in, Arm and Hamsterdam, by the way. Hang on a second here. Sharon Snyder says, if Iran's attack is horrific, do you think Israel will bomb Iran? Israel's response will be calibrated based on Iran's response. I don't know what Iran's response is going to be. I think there's a decent argument to be made that they'll try to make it stronger than April because they will want to deter Israel from continuing to carry out these assassinations and acting with impunity. And clearly the April response did not deter Israel. So, but Israel will, the bigger the response and any kind of destruction caused by that response, the stronger the Israeli response to that is likely to be. Thanks, Sharon Snyder, for writing in. Faye Tux mentioned a new article in CBS News. Oh, I'll have to check that out too. We'll check that out too. Hey, just, we talked about this a little earlier, but I just want to mention it again because we talked about it at the beginning. U.S. to boost military presence in Mideast, sending fighter jet squadron and keeping carrier in the region. We talked about this a little earlier, but let's talk about it just for a second again. This is from Associated Press. There's Secretary of Defense Austin. Thanks, Jay Drabble, for your support. The U.S. will move a fighter jet squadron to the Middle East and maintain an aircraft carrier in the region, the Pentagon said today, beefing up the American military presence to help defend Israel from possible attacks by Iran and its proxies and safeguard U.S. troops. The defense secretary has also ordered ballistic missile defense-capable cruisers and destroyers to the European and Middle East regions and is taking steps to send more land-based missile defense weapons there. The shifts make good on a promise that President Biden made to Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. In a call on Thursday, Biden discussed new U.S. military deployments to protect against possible attacks from ballistic missiles and drones, according to the White House. In April, U.S. forces intercepted dozens of missiles and drones fired by Iran against Israel and helped down nearly all of them. U.S. leaders worry about escalating violence in the Middle East in response to recent attacks by Israel on Hamas and Hezbollah leaders, which triggered threats of retaliation. Iran has also threatened to respond after Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh was assassinated in Tehran on Wednesday, a day after senior Hezbollah commander Fouad Shakur was killed in Beirut. Secretary of Defense Austin is ordering the USS Abraham Lincoln Aircraft Carrier Strike Group to the Middle East to replace the USS Theodore Roosevelt Carrier Strike Group, which is in the Gulf of Oman but scheduled to come home later this summer. That decision suggests the Pentagon has decided to keep a carrier consistently in the region as a deterrent against Iran at least until next year. The Pentagon did not say where the fighter jet squadron was coming from or where it would be based in the Middle East. A number of allies in the region are often willing to base U.S. military forces but don't want it made public, says the Associated Press. The Pentagon has options to provide additional land-based ballistic missile defense, such as the Patriot or the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense known as THAAD, both of which launch interceptor missiles from specialized trailer-based mobile launching systems. The Pentagon did not identify what system it would be deploying to augment defenses in the region. The White House said in a statement that President Biden reaffirmed his commitment to Israel's security against all threats from Iran, including its proxy terrorist groups Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. Earlier today, a Pentagon spokeswoman, Sabrina Singh, told reporters that moves were in the works. She said Austin will be directing multiple force movements to provide additional support to Israel and increase protection for U.S. troops in the region. Military and defense officials have been considering a wide array of options, from additional ships and fighter aircraft squadrons to added air defense systems or unmanned weapons. In many cases, the U.S. does not provide details because host nations are very sensitive about the presence of additional U.S. forces and don't want those movements made public. It is unclear which exact new ships would move to the Middle East. The U.S. has had a consistent warship presence there and in the eastern Mediterranean Sea, including 2 Navy destroyers, the USS Roosevelt and the USS Bull-Khali, as well as the USS Wasp and the USS New York. The Wasp and New York are part of the amphibious ready group and carry a Marine expeditionary unit that could be used if any evacuation of U.S. personnel is required. In addition, a U.S. official said 2 U.S. Navy destroyers that are currently in the Middle East will be heading north up the Red Sea toward the Mediterranean Sea. At least one of those could linger in the Mediterranean if needed. The official spoke on a condition of anonymity to discuss troop movements. So that's a little update there on some U.S. additional forces being sent to the region. The U.S. played a big role in helping Israel defend against Iran's attack on it in April, and could definitely do so again with an Iranian attack this time. Thanks, by the way, to Wes Downer for the gift memberships. That's really nice of you, Wes. Nord says, what will the attack look like? We're going to talk about that next. Thanks, Rocky Mountain Billy from Canada, who says, indexes dumped today across the globe and precious metal prices have spiked. I have a feeling Iran was waiting till weekend so billionaire backers can make cash off of next week's market action. You're thinking, Rocket Mountain of Billy, that Iran's timing is based on market activity? I don't know. Thank you, Rocky Mountain Billy, for your support, though. I appreciate that. Nick says, did you see reports about Biden's call with Bibi? Yeah. Was that? Hold on a second. Was that a new call? We talked about a call a couple days ago that he had with Netanyahu. I didn't know that. I don't know that he had a new one. Let me see something here. Hold on. Yeah, this was from yesterday. This was yesterday. We read this yesterday. Biden spoke with Netanyahu, says the White House. The president reaffirmed his commitment to Israel's security against all threats from Iran, including its proxy terrorist groups Hamas, Hezbollah, and Houthis. The president discussed efforts to support Israel's defense against threats, including ballistic missiles and drones, to include new U.S. defensive military deployments. Together with this commitment to Israel's defense, the president stressed the importance of ongoing efforts to de-escalate broader tensions in the region. Vice President Harris also joined the call. Hey, thanks to Crazy for your support, who thinks Mossad is one of the best intelligence agencies in the world. Hey, there's the Lebanon-Israel border, the west view from Israel, the west side of the Lebanon-Israel border. Thanks for the bits, Mad Trees 808, by the way. Thank you, Mad Trees 808. Thanks to all of our moderators, Big Ball of Yarn, David Green, LB Prairie Dawn, Idaho Star, McBritches, Papa Bear, and Surly Dev. Big thanks. K. Lowry Body, Christina Neal, Ronald Egnor. Any others I'm missing over there on Facebook? Thank you. Linda Belk and Larry on X. Ruth Krafasi over there on YouTube. Thank you. I keep saying we're going to talk about this, and I keep getting distracted. So we're really going to talk about it now. We're really going to do this. Sorry for the delay. We are going to look at the new report from the Institute for the Study of War. They are a research group who focus on military stuff, and they're really good. I really like looking at their analysis. Definitely recommend checking out their site, understandingwar.org. They also are on X, and their X account is Study of War, right? Is that what it is? At the Study of War. They are not a sponsor, but I like them. And also, I will say that they have very nicely allowed me permission to show their reports. So they are a good place to look for military analysis. So they have a new report today on the situation in Iran, and they talk about what might happen. So I want to check this out. We'll check out some of this. So here is some of their analysis. Fine Wine says they blundered the Ukraine war predictions. I don't know about that. I mean, I think that, they didn't get everything right. Who did get everything right about the Ukraine war? I think almost everyone. I mean, generally speaking, people thought it was unanticipated that the Russian military would perform so poorly early on. I don't think that was an Institute for the Study of War thing. But I do like, I think their opinions are well reasoned and well argued. And they have interesting analysis. Hang on one moment here. One moment here. Hold on a second here. Okay. Hey, thanks so much to Pazmino for your support. I appreciate that, Pazmino. Thank you. Okay, so Institute for the Study of War says, Iran in the accents of resistance are messaging that they will conduct a coordinated, large-scale attack on Israel in retaliation for Israel killing several axis of resistance leaders, including Hamas Political Bureau Chairman Ismail Haniyeh in recent days. And by the way, the axis of resistance that's a name for Israel, Hamas, sorry, not Israel, Iran plus Hamas, the Houthis, Hezbollah. There's militia in Iraq and Syria as well. So you can see here, Axis of Resistance from Wikipedia. It's an informal Iranian-led political and military coalition. It includes the Islamic resistance in Iraq, the Syrian government, the Lebanese political party and militant group Hezbollah, the Yemeni political and military organization Ansar Allah, which is the Houthis, Hamas, and a variety of other Palestinian militant groups. So when you hear Axis of Resistance, that's what's being discussed. The Houthi movement is also officially known as Ansar Allah. Okay, so now that we are a little more clear on Axis of Resistance, Institute for the Study of War says Iran and the Axis of Resistance are messaging that they will conduct a coordinated large-scale attack on Israel in retaliation for Israel killing several Axis of Resistance leaders, including Hamas Political Bureau Chairman Ismail Haniyeh in recent days. Senior Iranian security officials, including a number of them who they list, suggested that both Iran and the Axis of Resistance, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and others, will retaliate against Israel. Iranian leaders met with senior Axis of Resistance officials, many of whom were already in Tehran for the inauguration of Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian, to coordinate their combined attack. Iranian state media has furthermore suggested that the upcoming Iranian-led attack on Israel would be similar to, but greater than, the drone and missile attack that Iran launched on Israel in April. Okay? Okay, now this is important. I really like when the analysis of Institute for the Study of War, because they talk about this kind of stuff. So again, we're looking at the Institute for the Study of War. I'm going to post a link to this. I'm going to literally post the link to this webpage, to this article, so you can look at it yourself. Okay, I posted a link to it in the chat. The Institute for the Study of War says Iran and the Axis of Resistance are almost certainly considering how to cause greater damage to Israel than the April 2024 attack did, since that attack failed to impose a serious cost on Israel and thus failed to deter. This is important, and this makes sense to me. We've been talking about this kind of thing. I've been talking about this kind of thing, that they might want to do something bigger for deterrence reasons. So I think there's a lot to be said for this view of the Institute for the Study of War. Hang on a second here. So let's read what they say. Again, I want to read that again because I think it's so important. Iran and the axis of resistance are almost certainly considering how to cause greater damage to Israel than the April 2024 attack, since that attack failed to impose a serious cost on Israel and thus failed to deter. To deter is like you scare someone from doing something. It failed to scare Israel from, for example, assassinating Haniyeh in Tehran. Iran and its allies fired around 170 one-way attack drones, 30 cruise missiles, and 120 ballistic missiles at Israel in the April attack. Iran designed this strike package of over 300 projectiles to inflict serious damage on Israel. Iran specifically targeted 2 remote Israeli targets, an airbase in the southern Israeli desert and an intelligence center in the Golan Heights. Lebanese Hezbollah fired dozens of rockets while the Houthis launched a few drones and missiles in the April attack. Iran modeled its attack on Russian strike packages used in Ukraine. Iran has observed how Russian forces have combined drones and missiles in attacks on Ukrainian targets and likely concluded that it could similarly use such a strike package to overwhelm Israeli air defenses and get some projectiles to strike their targets. But the United States, Israel, and their allies intercepted the vast majority of the projectiles so that the Iranian attack did significantly less damage than Tehran intended. The United States and Israel benefited from the fact that the Iranian attack drones took hours to fly to Iran, from Iran to Israel across nearly 1,000 kilometers. That hours-long period gave the U.S., Israel, and their allies time to prepare their defenses and intercept all the drones, as well as many of the subsequent ballistic and cruise missiles. Iranian leaders likely calculate that they failed to deter Israel with their April attack because they did not inflict serious damage. All of this makes sense to me, by the way. I've been talking about this kind of thing in earlier streams. And just a reminder, where everything is located here, if we pull up our map here, just a reminder, hang on, just pulling up our map here. Pull up our Google map. Oh, we want to do it this way. If we pull up our map, what you'll notice is, there's our Google map. There's Israel here. Iran's all the way over here. So if you fire, say, a drone from Iran, it's going to take hours to get over to Israel. But you know what's not as far from Israel? Lebanon, where Hezbollah is, and Hezbollah is mainly supported by Iran. Lebanon is literally right across the border from Israel. So if Iran, say, has Hezbollah fire drones and rockets and missiles, they're going to get there a lot faster than they would if they were fired from Iran. So something to keep in mind. Okay? Yeah, in terms of distance, this western edge of Iran, even this western edge of Iran is still about 635 miles to Israel. Okay, let's go back to the Institute for the Study of War. So, I was reading you their report from today, and I was telling you how they were saying that Iran and the Axis of Resistance are almost certainly considering how to cause greater damage to Israel than the April attack did, since that attack failed to impose a serious cost on Israel and thus failed to deter. And I mentioned how the Institute for the Study of War said that Iran thought in April that by launching so many drones and missiles at the same time, some of them would get through Israeli air defense. But according to the Institute for the Study of War, Israel and Israel's allies shot down way more drones and missiles than Iran thought they would. Okay? Now, let's continue here in the report. Iran is likely now planning for its next attack in order to establish deterrence with Israel while still avoiding a large-scale war. Oh, that's such a delicate balance. One of the most dangerous but increasingly likely scenarios is that Iran and the Axis of Resistance launch a combined large-scale drone and missile attack that incorporates lessons from the 2024 attack. Wow. It does make sense. This makes sense what they're saying to me. Okay, so the Institute for the Study of War says Iranian leaders in this scenario could increase the volume of projectiles fired at Israel by launching more from Iran, from the surrounding countries, or both. Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Iranian-backed militias in Iraq and Syria could launch simultaneous attacks to further strain Israeli air defenses as well. Drones and missiles launched from Iraq, Lebanon, and Syria would be much harder to intercept than the ones from Iran, given the shorter distances and flight times to Israel. U.S. and Israeli forces would have significantly less time to intercept these projectiles. It would take Hezbollah drones around 15 minutes to reach Haifa and around 40 minutes to reach flying on direct paths to reach Tel Aviv, for instance, although many drones will likely fly indirect and longer routes. Iran could alternatively exploit the short flight times to concentrate a smaller volume of fire against a single target in Israel rather than against two. Shorter flight times for the drones could make it easier to coordinate them with ballistic missiles fired from Iran, whose flight times are generally less than 10 minutes. If Iran and its partners and proxies can concentrate drones and missiles on Israeli targets simultaneously, they may have reason to expect that the distractions caused by the one can facilitate penetration by the other. Wow. Wow. They say, Iran and the Axis of Resistance will also benefit from the fact that they have probed Israeli air defenses extensively since the April attack and thus have learned how to attack them more effectively. Hezbollah and the Houthis have both conducted attacks that have successfully bypassed Israeli air defenses since April 2024. The most notable example was probably that drone attack. Yeah, the Houthi drone attack on Tel Aviv on July 19th that killed an Israeli and injured 4 others. Israeli air defenses have similarly struggled to intercept Hezbollah drones in recent months because of the short flight time and mountainous terrain. The success in bold print from the Institute for the Study of War. The success that Israel and its allies and partners had in defeating the April 2024 strike should not be cause for complacency in the face of a new attack. But Israel and its supporters have multiple systems to engage various kinds of targets and are aware of the capabilities Hezbollah's drones have shown, so neither is there cause for pessimism. Wow. So, again, Institute for the Study of War seems to think that Iran is going to try something kind of like what they did in April by launching a lot of drones and missiles, but launching more of them not from Iran, but from their proxy forces closer to Israel. to give Israel and Israel's partners less time to shoot them down. So very interesting report. And I just want to mention this as well. Iran could unintentionally, inadvertently trigger an expanded conflict with Israel and even the U.S. if Iran launches an attack along the lines described here. Again, Iran could inadvertently trigger an expanded conflict with Israel and even the U.S. if Iran launches an attack along the lines described here. Launching hundreds of projectiles is inherently risky, particularly given the failure rate that Iranian missiles have shown. Technical errors could cause severe collateral damage. For example, well, they say like the Hezbollah rocket attack, like the Hezbollah rocket that killed 12 Israeli children in the Golan Heights. The idea being that, in theory, Hezbollah was not trying to hit a soccer field in the Golan Heights with a rocket. Doesn't really make much sense for them to be doing that as opposed to other targets. But what the Institute for the Study of War is saying is, if you're Iran and you launch hundreds of projectiles, drones and missiles, there's a greater chance that one of these things messes up and hits some, say, civilian target that you did not intend to hit, and it causes such horrible damage that it brings it expands the conflict into a greater war. This risk is higher given reports that Iran is planning to target locations near Haifa and Tel Aviv. Both cities are more populated than the two remote locations that Iran targeted in its April attack. The risk of civilian casualties is thus very high if Iran does not mean to strike even if Iran does not mean to strike civilian targets around Haifa and Tel Aviv. Iran could trigger an expanded war if it kills Israeli civilians or inflicts severe damage, regardless of what Iran intends to do to avoid, regardless of whether Iran intends to avoid an overt war. It may not be immediately obvious to Israeli leaders that a large strike aimed at one or two targets is not, in fact, aimed at a much wider target set, moreover. Drones have long ranges and often fly far beyond their targets before turning to hit them from the rear. The risk of miscalculation in a strike such as the one described is very high. Wow. So, I know that's a lot to take in, but it's really interesting analysis. And I got to say, it makes sense. It makes sense. This is from the Institute for the Study of War. Again, understandingwar.org. It's their August 1st update. It was from yesterday, technically. Sorry. I'll link to the article again. But look, I've been saying to you guys in recent coverage, I was saying, the general statement that, we talked about it at length yesterday. And I was saying, look, these two assassinations, the assassination of Haniyeh, who is a Hamas leader, who was Iran's guest, that Iran was hosting for the inauguration of its president, and Israel kills him in the capital of Iran. And that comes just hours after Israel kills a top Hezbollah leader in Beirut, a suburb of Beirut, the capital of Lebanon. And remember, Hezbollah is a proxy group supported by Iran. So this is just within hours. And what I was saying is, obviously, as a number of analysts have said, this is very embarrassing for Iran. But also, Iran might be thinking like, they feel like they can do whatever they want to us. This is in our face. We can't let this continue. We can't let them think they can keep behaving like this, Israel. We need to take some strong action. So what I was saying to you is that would be a reason for them to take strong deterrence. And I believe I said, if we went back and checked, that they might think, well, we need to do something stronger than we did in April because April clearly didn't deter them. And that type of reasoning is a reasoning that Institute for the Study of War says too, that they might want to they might want to feel that they need to deter Israel, and that just means they got to do something that inflicts more damage than what they did in April. And it makes sense. I mean, I think that makes sense. But the Institute of Study of War starts, getting into detail about well, what would that mean for an attack? And they point out that, if they start launching lots and lots of projectiles and drones and missiles, there's a risk that some of them could go, no matter where they intend that they go, some of them could mess up and hit some big civilian target, and then you have a disaster, and then you have Iran and even the U.S. Israel and maybe the U.S. thinking they got to get into a war with Iran. So worries about escalation. And look, how did we get started? How did the Hezbollah leader end up getting assassinated a few days ago in Beirut? What happened? A rocket apparently fired from Hezbollah hit a soccer field in the Golan Heights, which best guess would be that it was not intended to hit the soccer field, that it was intended for some other Israel target, but mistakes happen, and then regardless of whether they tried to hit the soccer field, they did, and they killed 12 children, and at that point, Israel felt they needed to do something strong, and what did they do? They assassinated this top Hezbollah commander. So when you have attacks from one side on another, regardless of where the attack is intended to hit, you can have mistakes happen, and if those mistakes are bad enough, it can start a big escalation cycle. So anyways, I think that's really interesting analysis from the Institute of Study of War. But will Iran, I'm going to ask a poll question now. Will Iran's attack assuming Iran does attack like they said it's going to, will Iran's response to Israel, will Iran's attack on Israel, whenever they launch it, in response to the two assassinations, especially the one in Tehran, will it be bigger than their attack on Israel in April? That's going to be the question. I'm asking you a poll question. Will Iran's attack be bigger than the one in April? I just posted the poll on YouTube, and I'm posting it on Twitch now too. Let me post what you guys think is going to happen. What do you guys think is going to happen here? Excuse me. 79% of you on YouTube think the attack will be bigger this time than the one in April. Interesting. Over there on Twitch, we have this result. 70% of you on Twitch say the attack will be bigger than the one in April. Now 67%. CC Truck says not bigger but more shocking. Maybe it's not bigger but just different. Thank you to Steve Fields, who says Israel struck a smuggling airfield on Syria's border with Lebanon, trying to cut off weapons shipments to Hezbollah ahead of Iranian-led retribution. So, Steve, I did see recently that there was some report of Israel striking a target that was connected to Hezbollah. But Israel does that all the time. Israel regularly strikes targets, say, in Syria, to prevent Iran from bringing weapons into the region. So I'm not aware that that strike you're talking about, Steve, has any kind of special preparatory relation to them thinking Iran is going to strike soon. I don't know that that was connected to a potential Iranian strike, because they do that kind of thing all the time. Israel regularly attacks targets in Syria connected with Iran. Yeah, the Jerusalem Post had reported that Israeli fighter jets attacked an airport in Lebanon's northeastern border with Syria. And then a couple hours earlier, there was another airport situated on the Syrian side of the border. Again, that could just be kind of the regular Israel attacks Syrian targets thing. But I don't know for sure. Thanks for voting in the poll. Thanks, long-range precision shooting, says who I think it could be infrastructure like an EMP. Well, I haven't heard any kind of experts say they think something like an... I don't even know if Iran could carry out an EMP attack. I don't want to get into EMP attacks, but suffice to say, I don't hear any analysis saying anything like that is on the table. But, maybe what you're saying more generally is you think maybe it could have some kind of unconventional aspect like, say, a cyber attack or something like that. Hey, I have no idea. Maybe Iran will try something that's a little more unconventional if they think that, well, we fired lots of rockets and missiles last time and it didn't do much damage. I don't know what that would be, but it's interesting to think about whether they might try some sort of alternative to just firing a lot of things. Thank you, long-range precision shooting. Thank you also to Hebrew Jerusalem Prince 777, who thinks Iran is going to try to eliminate a top IDF leader. You know, that would be another way. You know, trying to target personnel would be another thing that they could try to do besides just launch a lot of rockets and missiles. Did ISW talk about that? Hold on. I don't see it here. Oh, yeah, look. No, they did. I forgot to read this. Thanks for reminding me. The Institute for the Study of War said some Iranian officials in state media have called for targeting Israeli political and military leaders in response to the Israeli assassination of Hamas leader Haniyeh in Tehran. Martyrs and Veterans Affairs Foundation President Amir Hossein Ghazi-Zadeh Hashemi called on August 1st for killing one of Israel's main leaders. IRGC affiliated media similarly argued on August 1st that every Israeli political and military official will be a potential target. I do not know about the means Iran has to carry something like that out, but something to keep an eye on as well. Thank you, Hebrew Jerusalem Prince. Again, this is from the Institute for the Study of War article from August 1st, which I appreciate them letting me read you. Thanks also to our new member, Nikita. Let's get you this. Nikita Kozlovsky. Thanks, Nikita. And Carolina Gal. And Cartoon Maps. And Trey Everyday. And Air Jordan Almonds. And Child of God 74. Thanks for the gift memberships. And Lucky Splinters. Thank you. I mean, it really could come at any time. I wouldn't be surprised if nothing happened for a week, and I wouldn't be surprised if something happened tonight. I honestly have no idea. I have no idea how they're going to play it. They could do multiple attacks. Uh-oh. Wrigley Rob's going to get timed out again. Thanks, Wrigley Rob, for the support, but you're getting timed out again. It's really sad. It's really sad. Hey, let me just check for some news updates. I haven't even had time. We've been giving you updates here. Oh, thanks to our new member, Long Range Precision Shooting. Thank you. Thanks also Barker J. Roar for the bits on Twitch. Thank Sandra for the bits on Twitch. Airtight Ski Pole and Mad Trees 808. Thank you for the bits on Twitch. I just saw AFP reports breaking U.S. scraps plea deal with 9/11 mastermind. I believe there was supposed to be a plea deal with Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who's in Guantanamo, that he would agree to life in prison instead of getting the death penalty. Is that what it is? Anyways, AFP is reporting that U.S. scraps plea deal with 9/11 mastermind. I don't really want to get all into that story right now. It's not really what we're talking about. But yeah, so just really quick here. Again, this is completely off topic. But a few days ago, here's this article from Reuters from a couple days ago. 3 September 11 suspects agreed to plead guilty at Guantanamo. The man accused of masterminding September 11 attacks, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, and 2 of his accomplices have agreed to plead guilty, according to this report. The plea deals almost certainly involved guilty pleas in exchange for taking the death penalty off the table. But, so that was the report from, when was this? Yesterday. That's a report that came out yesterday. But AFP just reported that U.S. scraps plea deal with 9/11 mastermind. Anyways, I'm just giving you that update. Hang on a moment. I am... Oh. Is there a new report? Guys, guess what? They just came out with their new report. It looks like, I didn't see it before. There's a new report from the Institute of the Study of War. So in a second, we'll check that out as well. We'll check that out in a second. See Institute for the Study of War on X, at the Study of War. Read more in the August 2nd update, on Iran update. All right. Oh, and they work with critical threats. Oh, here's something about the plea deals. Look, Jeff Selden. Secretary of Defense Austin yanks plea deals for 9/11 terror attack mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and 2 others. Oh, Department of Defense memo tonight also relieves the official in charge of the military commissions of her oversight in the case. What? Did the Secretary of Defense not agree with the plea deal? I'm so confused. Secretary of Defense memo. Who is this? Who wrote this memo? It's not. Oh, it's Lloyd Austin. It's the Secretary of Defense. I have determined that in light of the significance of the decision to enter into pretrial agreements with the accused in the above referenced case, responsibility for such a decision should rest with me as the superior convening authority. Effective immediately, I hereby withdraw your authority in the above referenced case to enter into a pretrial agreement and reserve such authority to myself. I don't pretend to get all this, but I don't know if he was okay with it and then it got bad press and he wasn't okay with it, or was the original person not supposed to make the plea? Because the story came out about this plea deal. But I guess Austin, for whatever reason, was not happy with that. So basically, he's the person who initially offered the plea deal to Khalid Sheikh Mohammed no longer has that authority anymore. Interesting. Anyways, Jeff Selden posted that. Lloyd Austin yanks plea deal for 9/11 terror attack mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, 2 others. Department of Defense memo released tonight also relieves the official in charge of the military commissions of her oversight in the case. Who Dat Nation thinks she's not making the plea deal without someone okaying it. Now, not how that works. Bad press had to quickly correct. Yeah, so our viewer Who Dat Nation thinks that the bad press is what happened. And Jeff Selden does point out that the Department of Defense had announced the plea deals earlier this week, but details were not made public. So this wasn't just media reports. The Department of Defense had reported the plea deals. Anyways. So maybe it was like negative publicity or something. I don't know for sure, but I don't want to get too wrapped up in that story because it's not what we're covering. Yeah, the New York Times says the U.S. Defense Secretary revoked a plea deal with 3 men accused of plotting September 11th, effectively reinstating it as a death penalty case. Interesting. Plea deal drama, by the way. Hang on a moment. One moment here. Oh, I got an article about it. Look, I got an article about it. From Reuters. Here you go. Pentagon chief revokes plea deal with 3 September 11 suspects. I know it's a little off. Oh, it's short article. It's like 1 line long. Reuters says U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin has revoked a plea deal agreed to earlier this week with the man accused of masterminding the September 11th attacks, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, and 2 of his accomplices, according to a memo signed by Austin today. Okay. So again, I don't know if it was just like that it came out and there was bad press. So the New York Times says the original plea deal exchanged guilty plea for sentences of at most life in prison and took the death penalty off the table. And then Austin, in taking away the authority of the original person who made the plea deal, effectively reinstated it as a death penalty case. And the New York Times says the original plea deal was reached after over 2 years of negotiations. Some family members of those killed in the attacks reacted with anger that a death sentence was no longer possible. So that could be what caused it. The New York Times says some family members, and I'm guessing members of the public, but some family members of those killed in the attacks, when the news of the plea deal came out, that the death penalty was off the table, reacted angrily that a death sentence was no longer possible. So maybe that's what happened. Anyways, it's kind of a digression from our topic, but I wanted to bring you that breaking news. Thanks so much to Adrian Goodman for the gift membership and the Combat Drummer. Thanks for the gift memberships. Hey, I want to point out something from Intel Crab. Intel Crab says, this Arkia Airbus flight departed LLBG with no hiccups. Scheduled departures for the few airlines yet to cancel flights in and out of Tel Aviv continue as normal. He is looking at flight radar, which we can briefly look at. I'm not going to really get into the details of flight radar, but here's flight radar 24. It's what is it? 3:40 in the morning Israel time, by the way. Yeah, that so people are tracking that flight there. But that is a flight that Arkia Israeli Airlines just took off from Tel Aviv at 3:22 a.m. So that took off without a problem. Hat tip to Intel Crab. 3:40 a.m. Israel time. One moment. One moment. Just Cause thinks it's clear for tonight. That's what Just Cause thinks. I was just checking the news. I gotta check some of your messages too. Sorry, a lot to check tonight. I'll let you look at the view of the Israel-Lebanon border. Dan Campbell says President Biden should tell Iran don't respond. I don't know if Iran's going to listen to that if President Biden says it. I think they need to respond to keep deterrence. Joe Arrow mentioned that B&O News said a Russian air base in Rostov was hit by large explosions. I'm assuming maybe that's some kind of Ukrainian attack, which does happen sometimes. Yeah, I'm gonna post a link to some videos of it. Tendar, which is an account I follow that talks about Ukraine stuff, posted about it too. So, report on Russian airbase being struck here. I just posted the link in the chat. B&O News posted a video of it too. Again, this kind of thing does happen. It's not like a big game changer in the war, but it's interesting that it's happening. So thanks for messaging me about that. Kurt Bauman, our viewer, says, I don't know that the Axis of Resistance can do anything to deter Israel. In fact, the Axis of Resistance may want to be careful with the damage they might inflict because they will not like the response. Interesting. That's what Kurt Bauman said. Thank you, Kurt. I will say this. If Iran, what Iran does not want to do, I don't think Iran wants to have a similar thing to April, where they launch hundreds of drones and missiles and the vast majority of them get shot down. I think they would risk looking weak. They would actually risk looking really weak if that happened again. So if they really want to establish deterrence, which I'm guessing they want to, I agree with the Institute for the Study of War on that. They have to try to find something with a good chance of actually doing more than was done in April to Israel. Now, maybe that involves something unconventional. Maybe it's not just let's fire more missiles. And again, they could just have Hezbollah in theory, although it's a risky for Hezbollah, but they could have stuff fired from just across the border rather than from Israel. Hold on a second here. Thank you to Crypt Cards, who believes Iran is sending munitions via tunnels to Lebanon. Well, they certainly get weapons there because they're supporting the big supporter of Hezbollah. I'm not up to date on how they're doing that. Thank you, Crypt Cards, though. I really appreciate that. Thanks to Iranian Putin for your support as well. Let us check today's update from Institute for the Study of War and see if it has anything different from yesterday. I'm sure there's something different from yesterday. But let's just check something. John Turpin says, are flights from Israel to the United States canceled? That I don't know. I read an article earlier about a bunch of airlines canceling flights to Israel. I don't know if that includes all U.S.-Israel flights. I just don't know. So, for example, the Times of Israel said that United and Delta canceled their flights to Israel. I don't know until Delta canceled till August 2nd, United canceled till August 6th. I don't know if there are other airlines that fly between U.S. and Israel. But according to Times of Israel, United and Delta have canceled flights from the U.S. to Israel. Although I don't know if Delta is starting again. I would have to imagine they're not starting up again, but I don't know. Look, Delta, Israel security situation. We have extended our waiver of all customers, blah, 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 blah. The current security situation in Israel may impact travel to and from Tel Aviv, impacted travel. I don't know what the exact situation is there. I don't know if how long they're canceling these flights for, but anyways. Sorry I can't give you a complete answer, John, but thanks for the question. Thanks to Quantica Science, who says 4 KC Stratotankers in the air, Flight Radar 24. Thanks, Quantica Science. I appreciate that. So, again, with the flight radar stuff, I don't know what's normally in the air, so I defer to the accounts I follow who are flight radar experts. I have not seen any flight radar. The people who really know about it say tonight that there's anything that they see that's really out of the ordinary. So I will defer to them on whether there's something really urgent going on with the flight radar. Thanks to Jerry Kovacs, our member as well. And Sunflower, thank you. And Sunflower mentions Flight Radar 2. Again, I just don't know enough about what normally happens there. What would it normally look like at 3:48 a.m.? So I can't look at it and say, oh, wow, this is a huge change. We know a number of airlines have canceled, international airlines have canceled travel to the region. Not all of them, but I will, if I see people I trust saying something urgent about the flight radar situation, I will certainly let you know. Let me show you this Institute for Study of War thing, because we didn't look at the report from today. So let's look at that for a second. Hang on. Why am I not? I want to be on Israel. Hold on. There's Israel-Lebanon border. Okay, so this is today's update from the Institute for the Study of War, which is a really great, I really like them a lot. They're a research group and they do military analysis stuff. And I just wanted to peek at their update from today and just see if there's anything I wanted to mention here from that. I'll post a link to the article in the chat. I'm posting a link to this article in the chat. I just posted it there. They say Iran and its axis of resistance may target U.S. forces in Syria. This is interesting. They say Iran and its axis of resistance may target U.S. forces in Syria as part of a retaliatory strike for Israel killing several axis of resistance leaders, including Hamas Political Bureau Chairman Ismail Haniyeh. Okay? Iran is very likely taking into consideration U.S. and allied support defending Israel as it considers how to cause greater damage than the April 2024 attack did on Israel. Iran and its allies fired around 170 one-way attack drones, 30 cruise missiles, and 120 ballistic missiles at Israel in the April 2024 attack. Iran designed the strike package of over 300 projectiles to inflict serious damage on Israel. The U.S. and allied forces in the region intercepted a majority of the drones and missiles en route to Israel during the attack. The U.S., Israel, and allied countries in the region collectively intercepted approximately 99% of all the munitions launched by Iran during the April attack. Iranian-backed militia attacks targeting U.S. bases in Syria could pull resources away from engaging and intercepting munitions bound for Israel in some circumstances. Interesting. If the U.S. had to focus on defending U.S. ground positions, Iran could calculate that the effectiveness of the integrated regional air defense that defended Israeli territory in April would be reduced. Tehran might expect that attacks targeting U.S. forces in combination with large-scale drone and missile attack conducted by the Axis of Resistance could be significantly more effective than the April attack. Achieving the greatest impact of attacks on U.S. forces to draw resources away from intercepting Iranian strikes against Israel would require a high degree of coordination across the Axis of Resistance and would need to be precisely timed. It is far from clear that that Iran and its proxies and partners could coordinate many disparate air and ground operations that finally. U.S. and allied forces can also take many measures to mitigate these risks. Interesting. Okay. Iran is likely considering its ability to maintain nuclear deterrence against Israel as it plans to a retaliatory strike against Israel. This is from the Institute of Study of War today. What does this say? Iranian nuclear deterrence against Israel most likely requires that Iran demonstrate a reasonable ability to strike Israeli territory with a delivery device capable of carrying a nuclear warhead. Iran's 2024 attack demonstrated it is not capable of effectively penetrating Israeli air defenses. The Iranians may shape this attack deliberately to try and establish that they can indeed get a nuclear-capable missile to a target in Israel. That course of action would require a strike planning to focus on ensuring that the ballistic missiles succeed in hitting at least some of their targets and would not be satisfied if only drones or small missiles penetrated Israel and partner air and missile defenses. That's interesting. So they're saying that Iran might want to show Israel that it could get a nuclear-capable missile through, which they didn't do in April. Oh, we talked about this report here earlier. Anonymous Western intelligence sources told Sky News Arabia that Iran and Lebanese Hezbollah may attack Israel on the Jewish holiday Tisha B'Av on April 12th or 13th, April 12th to 13th. An Iranian Hezbollah attack on this date would come 12 to 13 days after Israel killed Haniyeh. Iran similarly waited 13 days before retaliating against Israel in April. All right. Anyways, if you want to read the rest of this update, it's on the Institute for the Study of War page, understandingwar.org. I really like them. I'll post the link again. But interesting. KC Veteran says they won't wait that long. Personally, I feel like they would. I get the vibe they might want to do it sooner, but who knows? But I mean, that was a really provocative assassination by Israel. It was carried out in Iran, in Tehran, the capital, on a guest of the regime who was there for the presidential inauguration, who was staying in a government-run guest house. Very provocative. Eddie V thinks, I think sooner than 12 days. You never know, though. You never know. Oh, thanks, Kimberly M. That's so nice of you from Australia. Thanks for your support. $3:55 a.m. It could happen during the day, too. I have no idea. I mean, I assume it's going to happen at night, but I have no idea. Rick Hoppy thinks waiting that long would be a loss of face, if I'm interpreting Rick right. No, Israel has not confirmed it. And by the way, I don't believe Israel often does not comment on assassinations carried out by its Mossad intelligence service. So Israel has neither confirmed nor denied it. Really, it seems like they are the only logical culprit. All right, hang on a moment here. Hang on a moment. Give me a moment. Let's see here. Annie T thinks attacks happen when we least expect it. Hang on a second here. Here's just a little story from Reuters. Poland warns against travel to Lebanon, Israel, and Iran. They say, amid fears of wider Middle East conflict, Poland has warned its citizens against traveling to Lebanon, Israel, and Iran. In connection with a growing number of Polish tourists visiting Lebanon, Israel, and Iran, we want to repeat that we have long advised against any kind of travel to the region. The unstable security situation makes it possible to believe it will be more and more difficult to leave the three countries, the ministry added. Early on Friday, Polish airline LOT said it canceled 8 flights to Lebanon and Israel because of the security situation. Airlines are avoiding Iranian and Lebanese airspace and canceling flights to Israel and Lebanon as concerns grow over a possible regional conflict after the killing of senior members of militant groups Hamas and Hezbollah this week. Oh, and I also wanted to mention, Faytux News told me that CBS News had an article that says, Iran permanent mission to UN, Hezbollah will choose broader and deeper targets after Israel's Beirut strike. Iran's mission to the UN has warned that Hezbollah's response to Israel's assassination on Tuesday of a top Hezbollah commander may result in Hezbollah attacking a much broader and deeper civilian as well as military targets inside Israel. So And the person and the a spokesperson for the Iranian mission to the UN told CBS News that Hezbollah previously has had an unwritten Hezbollah and Iran have had an unwritten understanding, confining their actions to border areas and shallow zones targeting primarily military objectives, but they might not stick to that anymore. Obviously, if Iran or Hezbollah or one of Iran's other partners during an attack on Israel hit a civilian target, that would be very, very provocative for Israel and probably result in a huge response. Uh-oh. Wrigley Rob's going to get timed out yet again. Wrigley Rob, what are you doing? Thanks, Wrigley Rob, for your support, but I would think you don't want to keep getting timed out. Venom King thinks this would be a good time for the Iranian regime to attack America's interests, considering the state of affairs the current administration is dealing with. You mean a good time if you're like for Iran, you're saying? I don't think Venom King necessarily wants that to happen. You're staying strategically. Handerpants says, we thinking this is going to be tonight? Well, I have no idea. The current time is 4:01. 4:01 a.m. Oh, what happened? Did we lose their... did the stream freeze or something? Let's try this. Oh, no, we got it. That's live. It had frozen for a second. It's live again. View of Israel, Lebanon. Oh, see, it's doing a spinning circle. They're having an issue with their feed on Reuters now. See, it's doing a spinning circle. That's not from me. That's from Reuters. Issue with the Lebanon border feed, guys. Hey, thanks so much to Gregory Albright. Gregory, so nice of you. Thanks for all your support. And also Mitch, our new member, Mitch13. One of our viewers, Mr. Showtime, says, I think they're still planning. Look, that is something to keep in mind. This is going to be something that maybe involves Iran and, maybe involves a bunch of partners. They would have to figure out what they wanted to do, what kind of weaponry they might want to do it with. Do they need to get certain things in place and transport weaponry and, figure out the exact plan and instruct people and coordinate? I don't know how long that takes. That could take a while. Maybe they have to do some intelligence gathering before they do it. I don't know how long all that stuff would take them. Venom King says, yes, strategically, I do not want or condone any attack against America, just to be clear. Oh, thank you, Mitch13, who says, I wonder if there's any danger to the Olympic athletes and spectators from those countries. Will they have trouble flying home? Well, I think that already probably security is high for the Olympic athletes, especially like the Israeli athletes. So I don't know if this will change that. But, as we've said, as we've been talking about, some of our viewers think that maybe Iran would want to try to hit Israeli interests outside of Israel. They might think they have a better shot of doing that, but I don't know. We'll see if what they do. But they might think that a conventional attack has like a low likelihood of getting through or something. Oh, we got the live shot back. I can see it's live again. Thanks also to Jake S., our new member. Jake S. Let me just see if I have anything here. Unknown voice says the sun comes up at 5:58 a.m. in Israel. This is on the western part of the Israel-Lebanon border. I don't know exactly. It says western part of the border, western side of the border. Oh, I have another update for you. Hold on. Hold on a moment here. What's in this article from AP? International calls for ceasefire grow after assassinations in the Middle East. Okay. We talked about that. Israel police detain top imam at Al-Aqsa Mosque over Haniyeh comments. What's this? Israeli police have detained the top imam at the revered Al-Aqsa compound in Jerusalem's Old City for comments he made during a Friday sermon mourning the death of top Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh, who apparently was assassinated by Israel. Haniyeh was assassinated earlier in this week in Tehran in an attack that many have pinned on Israel. On Friday, Israeli police said they brought Sheikh Ekrima Sabri in for questioning after his address during midday prayers mentioned Haniyeh by name, mourning his death and asking God Almighty to have mercy on him and to grant him a place in his spacious gardens. The police say they are now investigating Sabri for incitement. They said the state has previously filed an indictment against Sabri on the same charge, one of 140 indictments in the Jerusalem area, including several other imams. Throughout the war, Israel has cracked down on Palestinian free speech, rights groups say, arresting them for speech deemed by Israeli authorities to be incendiary. Little news item from the Associated Press. And also there's this. Hold on. Israel protests after Turkey lowers embassy flag for Haniyeh. Israel has summoned Turkey's deputy ambassador for a severe reprimand after the Turkish embassy in Tel Aviv, Israel, lowered its flag to half-staff in a sign of mourning for Hamas's political leader Ismail Haniyeh, the Israeli foreign minister announced. Israel Katz said on X his country would not tolerate expressions of mourning for a murderer like Ismail Haniyeh, who led Hamas in committing the atrocities on October 7th and prayed with his associates, wishing success to the murderers. Turkey President Erdogan announced a national day of mourning on Friday, mandating that flags around the country and at overseas diplomatic missions be lowered to half-staff in honor of Haniyeh. Funeral prayers were being held at mosques around the country in Turkey, as well as Istanbul's famed Hagia Sophia. Katz said if the embassy representatives wish to mourn, they should go to Turkey and mourn alongside their master Erdogan, who embraces the terror organization Hamas and supports its acts of murder and terror. Turkey's foreign ministry spokesperson responded to Katz on X, saying Israel would not be able to achieve peace by killing negotiators and threatening diplomats. Haniyeh was like the leading negotiating figure for Hamas. Turkey does not view Hamas as a terrorist organization, and describes it as a liberation movement. So there's a little diplomatic news from Associated Press. Thought that was an interesting news item. Thank you to the Polish drunk for your support. The Polish drunk thinks if Iran wants to inflict maximum casualties on the public, the attack would come during daylight hours. I don't know if they want to do that. It's so hard to say. On the one hand, you would think Iran wants to deter Israel by inflicting serious damage. On the other, you'd think that supposedly they don't want to get into a war with Israel. So can you thread that needle? Can you do significant enough damage to deter Israel without escalating this to like an all-out war? By the way, Pakistan's prime minister called for a day of mourning for Hamas leader Haniyeh. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, says Associated Press, is appealing to his countrymen to observe a day of mourning and hold special funeral service prayers in absentia for the Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh, who was killed in the capital, Iranian capital Tehran, who actually spent a bunch of his time in Turkey. Oh, that's Pakistan. Okay, Pakistan. He split his time between Qatar and Turkey. Such prayers are held when the body of any person is from the country. Sharif, in his televised remarks, said he will also attend a special funeral service for Haniyeh at the mosque at his sprawling office. Okay. B&K Precision says, will you have a live feed? So I have various live feeds at various times. They kind of come in and out. My assumption is that if hostilities started, some more would pop up. Or maybe if there's like news reports that we could be very close, there might be more that pop up. I mean, there were a bunch last night. So this is one right here, but I will do my best. If we're covering it and stuff is happening, I will show you whatever live footage I have that's relevant. Broken Shadow Feather thinks Israel is ready for all-out war. Oh, what is this here? Our viewer sent me something. Leslie Lee from the Jerusalem Post. And it says a Kuwaiti newspaper claimed that Iran has supplied Hezbollah and other Iranian proxy forces with electromagnetic ordnance, which can disable communication systems and shut down radars. I don't know if that's true. A Kuwaiti newspaper reported this. The Jerusalem Post interviewed a CEO of a military technology company who said, just to give you a little sense of what he said, electromagnetic ordnance is like it's like talking about something no one has ever seen, but everybody understands exists. Imagine a lightning strike strikes your building and causing all the electrical panels, water heaters, water and electrical systems, et cetera, to stop working. It's like a power outage, but the systems can also burn out. And he says, I suspect the threat from something like this would be more focused on military bases and strategic facilities and desalination systems and so forth. Yeah, so I don't know that Hezbollah has this kind of weapon, or that it would obviously be if they had it, would be enormously provocative to use it. So, again, a Kuwaiti newspaper claimed Iran had given Hezbollah and other proxy forces with electromagnetic ordnance, which can disable communication systems and shut down radars. I don't know if that's true. Even if it's true, it would be an enormous deal if they used that. So I wouldn't expect to see something like that used, although you never know. That was from the Jerusalem Post. Thanks to our viewer for messaging me about that. All right, hang on a moment here. Big Time thinks if the attack doesn't happen soon, it will be tomorrow. Hang on a second here. Seeing if I have anything more to mention here. And we'll certainly, I mean, if and when something happens, we'll be on to cover it. I mean, who knows when the Iranian response and the Hezbollah response, if it's at a different time, will come. Yes, in Iran, in Iran right now, it is 4:47 a.m. in Iran. Let's see here. Hey, thanks to Ghost Gallery. That's really nice of you, Ghost Gallery. Also, Amy Sturdivant, thanks for being a new member. And J Metal, thanks for your support, J Metal. Do you think Israel will let the big dogs off the porch? Are you saying what will Israel do in response to Iran? Look, you know, if Iran does serious damage in Israel with its response, whatever it is, there's going to be pressure on Israel to go big in their response. You get this cycle of escalation. That's why these things are risky when anyone's attacking anybody else. But as I said before, I think Israel's response will be determined by what Iran does. The April attack started, one of our viewers, Blink, mentions the April attack, what time it started. Wasn't it around midnight local time. According to Wikipedia, it was at I can't find it. It says on the evening. Wasn't it like around midnight their time, though? The one and only said it was around 10 p.m. Was it 10 p.m.? I don't remember specifically. Okay. You know, guys, the streams, they have their natural length. I think we might be coming to the natural end of this stream. I think we kind of summarized the current state of affairs. And I don't really have much new to tell you at this point. It's 4:20 a.m. there. So I think I might wrap up this live stream. And of course, if there's big news coming from there, I will come right back on the air at whatever time. But I think it's time for this one to wrap up. So I'll be keeping an eye on this, of course. If something big happens, I'll just come right back on the air. But for now, I think we have talked about various updates and possibly what might happen. And we didn't see anything happening while we were on the air, but we'll have to see what happens. So I do really appreciate, of course, you guys being here for our stream and our coverage. More coverage to come, you know. And if there's other big news on something else, we'll come back on the air too. So subscribe, follow Agenda Free TV. We cover all kinds of live breaking news without an agenda. Agenda Free TV. And yeah, I appreciate you guys sending me messages, letting me read your comments and questions, sending me news updates. Thanks for your help with the stream. Hey, turn notifications on. I never know when I'm going live. There could be big news happening at whatever time of day or night. So you don't miss a stream. Turn on our free notifications. We got a free notification system. You sign up once and you get sent a link, sent a notification every time we go live. So the mods will put that notifications link in the chat, and you can also find it in the Facebook and YouTube description for this video. But sign up for your notifications. And oh, big thanks, by the way, to Candy Larson and Ronald Kame and David Solovey. David thinks the best case scenario is that Iran attacks like it did in April. The worst case is simultaneous with proxies. Our air defenses can't take that. Thanks, David. We talked about that a little earlier, maybe like an hour ago when we were talking about the Institute for the Study of War report, if you didn't see it. But thank you, David. Any dates of significance they would wait for? Candy says. Really quick, there's one report that claims they're gonna that Iran's gonna wait for a Jewish holiday on the 12th or 13th of August. I'm not sure that that's the case. That's one report from Sky News Arabia. So who knows if that's true? I don't think they necessarily need a day of significance. I mean, it's the reason why they're doing it will be known, which is to retaliate for what Israel did in Tehran and also in Beirut. So who knows? But I don't know that that's gonna. I would think that if they think that it'll go better on a different day, I think they would do that instead of worrying about a day of significance. But who knows? Lots of report of that date. Every single report of that date quotes the same report from Sky News Arabia. So just because multiple outlets are reporting it, you need to look at what they're saying. And what you'll see they're saying is, we saw it from Sky News of Arabia. Sky News Arabia. I'm pretty sure of that. So make sure you check what the report actually is. Anyways, yeah, I will, you know, who knows about that. I'm not putting too much stock in that one report right now. Could turn out to be right. We'll see. Hey, thank you to our moderators, by the way. You guys are the best. The moderators are always here in the chat, allowing us to have chat rooms. We wouldn't have the chats without the mods. So they're keeping it civil and respectful there. Huge thanks to our moderators. Ruth Krafasi over there on YouTube moderating right now. Sabrina, thank you so much. Much appreciated. And all of our other YouTube members, YouTube moderators who've been over there. Over on Twitch, thanks to our mods there. Big Ball of Yarn, David Green, LB Prairie Dawn, I Got That Fire. Papa Bear and Surly Dev, huge thanks. And all of our other Twitch mods. On Facebook, Ronald Agnor, Margaret Riley, Kay Lowry Body, Christina Neal, Paul Anderson, all of our Facebook moderators, thank you so much. And our Larry and Linda moderate for us on X. Larry and Linda Belk, thank you, moderators. Much appreciated. And thanks to everybody who donated to the channel. You are the ones who allow this channel to exist and allow me to buy news footage and stuff. So thanks so much for your donations. That is super nice of you. Did I thank Ghost Gallery? I think I did. Hopefully I thanked everybody. Ooh, maybe on Twitch I owe a thank you or two. On Twitch, thanks to Ann Carolyn 0113 on Twitch and Lloyd Christmas for your support on Twitch. And thank you everybody for the donations. That is awesome. Thank you so much. And if you ever want to donate, you can go to agendafree.tv, agendafree.tv. And let's see. So I mentioned the notifications. Sign up for the notifications. In addition, you might want to check out our Discord chat where you can chat with other viewers when we're not on the air. A lot of our viewers like doing that. It's free, and it's at the same link as the notification. So check out the Discord chat. Thanks to our Discord mods, by the way. And if you are interested in being a moderator, which would be great, ask the mods for more information. Also, I will post updates. When I am not on the air, I post breaking news on my X account, which is at Lookner on X. Follow me there for breaking news at Lookner on X. And you can follow Agenda Free TV at Agenda Free TV on X. I post scheduling updates. I post when we're going on the air and that kind of thing. And before we go on the air, I'll post it there and give you a heads up at Agenda Free TV. I'll put a link to my X account in the chat. Thanks again to Institute for the Study of War, the Institute for the Study of War, for letting me check out their reports. And if you want to follow the Institute for the Study of War on X, their X account is Institute for the Study of War at the Study of War. What else did I want to mention? Hey, big thanks to thanks again, Leslie Lee, for mailing me that for messaging me with that article. Hey, big thanks to our Twitch subscribers like Jackson22, Wall Street Shaggy. Really appreciate all of your support over there. Integrity Farmer Bob, Jax, Haku, Jackson22. I think I said Jackson already. Relila, Mahjong Lady, Puff Adder, Greyhound Player, and all of our other subscribers over there on Twitch. Very much appreciate you supporting the channel. Cole K. Meister too. Thanks so much. And Gina Pina as well. Also our Facebook subscribers. Big shout out to you. Oh, also Devil Doc. Thanks for subscribing, Devil Doc, on Twitch. Our Facebook subscribers, such as Margaret Riley, Christina. No, I'm getting my brain stopped working. My brain stopped working. Margaret Riley is a subscriber, but she's also a moderator. Margaret Riley, Eve Richards, Kay Lowry Body, Lou Green, Ronald Egnor, Jane Summers. Thanks to all of our subscribers there. Brian to Ud Patel, Billy Joe Drage, and any others I might be missing too. Thanks to our Facebook subscribers. Diane Allworth, thank you. And our YouTube members. Thanks to our YouTube members. Like Evelyn in Maine, Turned Off, Joe Hart, Barry, Princess Teapot, Red Squirrel, Paul Callaghan Fowler, Evelyn in Maine, J.K. Senar, Doris Wilson, Dean R., Ronnie Coleman, the one and only, Flor Morena, RS Pat, Danny G, Earth Citizen, NY Committee, Randy Bollinger, John Herzog, Pam Turner, Peasy Wheats, Lucky Splinters, Danny G, thanks for subscribing. Thanks for being members on YouTube. Jen's Crunchy Vax, John Herzog, Roger Bonner, Excessive Fours was here. Hey, good to see you. Winding Road, Portland Candy, Anon News, I think it was. Anon News. Charlie Beats, Jake S, Snow White, Eddie V, Devil Bunny, Red Squirrel, West Downer. Thanks, all of our members. And QWERTY CA. All right, and Crazy Yoda as well. Hey, so I will certainly be keeping a lookout for updates. If there's big news, I will come rushing back on the air. We will certainly have more coverage of this situation. But who knows when they will respond, when Iran will attack? I do not. Could be any day now. Could be next week. All right, guys. So thank you again. Thank you, Arnold Michael, for watching as well over there on Facebook. And Lynn Powell and Artist Caverlin. Excuse me. It's our time. It's time. It's time to wrap it up. Magua, thank you. All right, guys. That is it for now. You've been watching our live update on the situation as Israel waits for an Iran attack that is expected. We'll have to see what happens when it happens. Dangerous situation in the Middle East. Wrigley Rob came back in time to donate and get timed out again. Thank you, Wrigley Rob. All right, guys, that's a good bookend for the stream. That is it for now. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you soon with more live breaking news updates right here at Agenda Free TV.